Ms. Gaetz, many of my constituents will watch this hearing and they'll say, well, the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, I'm not a foreigner. Why should that bother me? What would you say?
Americans' communications are swept up in enormous volumes, so enormous that the government won't tell us how big it is because it would be a very awkward number for the government to disclose. I suspect that's the real reason. And those communications are available to FBI agents without a warrant or a court order of any kind.
And you talked about these backdoor searches, and that's been an intense focus of the committee. Could you help define that for folks so they understand the risk there?
Sure. What a backdoor search is an electronic query of data obtained under Section 702. So the communications are obtained. They are placed into data systems at the NSA and then shared with the FBI, the National Counterterrorism Center, and the CIA. And then agents can run electronic queries of those data systems using identifiers associated with Americans. So using an American's email address, for example, they can plug that in, and that will return any communications that were obtained under Section 702 that have an American on one end of them. And
it almost feels like there's a digital file out there about millions of Americans, and I'm sort of wondering how, and we've tried to get straight answers from folks who work in the government about this question, but what we've learned is it's upwards of 10,000 people who can conduct some of these backdoor searches. Have any of your studies evaluated the breadth of individuals who can engage in this violation of our civil liberties?
No, we don't know the number, but I think...
Isn't that scary? Shouldn't we? I mean, it seems like something we should know. How many people can do backdoor searches into information that was not collected pursuant to any probable cause or a warrant?
Yeah, it would be a good thing to know, and one of the reasons why I think we should be curious about it is because the government has told the FISA court that one of the reasons for all of these violations we've seen is that FBI agents didn't understand the standard for those searches, and that standard is that the search has to be reasonably likely to obtain foreign intelligence or evidence of a crime. Well, and that doesn't sound like rocket science to me, and that standard has been in place for 15 years.
But they break it. Well, I mean, I just read an order from the Foreign Intelligence, the FISC, the court, and the court said, well, you weren't just using these searches and queries to get legitimate law enforcement information. At times, people at the FBI were searching themselves, searching their ex-lovers, searching their neighbors in this system. And so it seems as though there's not a standard that's adhered to.
It's adhered to often in the breach. There were 278,000 violations of that standard in 2021.
I mean, if you've got 278,000 violations of the standard, as you've said, the breach is the standard in a lot of ways. So we have this tactical question coming up. We have FISA that is set to expire, and I believe we should let it. I believe the standard of violation of breach is so pervasive that the patient is not savable, that we have to design something totally different outside of 702. And then I have other colleagues who are like-minded in my desire to protect civil liberties, but who suggest tactically that the best approach is to try to insert strong warrant requirements. This is my 7th year in Congress, Mr. Kiko. I certainly don't have your experience, but I want to draw on it because I want to get your advice. I've gone down this road with the Cheneyistas and others who bring us to the precipice of reform, and then at the last moment, it seems as though the civil libertarians rarely prevail over those who purport to be defending national security, no matter how many violations of our liberties occur. And so would you advise a reform effort or an expiration strategy, and why?
Well, I would. That's a very tough question, and I know that's why you ask it. And I can actually see my preference would be some kind of reform effort with teeth and accountability, because there hasn't been any teeth and there hasn't been any accountability in the oversight that's been conducted. We're always at the end of the system. They say they're going to do something. It never gets done. 4 years later, we find out there's massive violations. Everybody comes, well, we're going to do it this time. But there's no accountability among the people that are breaking the law. There's no accountability among the administration. It doesn't matter. There's nothing.
Yeah, it sounds like there need to be penalties. Thank you for your testimony. I yield back.
Thank you. Chair recognizes the gentlelady, the ranking member, Ms. Jackson Lee.